Hello, everybody. I'm back. This is Joe Bailey, and this is a very special time to be with you today because I feel like I've kind of reached accumulation of a lot of things in my whole life that have come together here with the publication of my new book, Thriving in the Eye of the Hurricane. And the book is done, and I want to thank all of you who have been listening to my blogs and who have written to me and commented on giving me your input about the book. But I also want to talk a bit about the people who really helped me evolve, me transform, that has led to the accumulation of my life's work in this book. My journey started many, many years ago as a young boy. I had an aunt, Aunt Millie, who was a Catholic nun who was a very extraordinary spiritual person. She wasn't just a religious person, she was a true spiritual person, kind of a Mother Teresa of her time in Central America. And she had a big influence on everybody in our family. But I was fortunate that she invited me to be an exchange student in Guatemala. And so I got to hang out with her quite a bit in her element in Central America, in a country that at the time was in a state of war, at intense poverty and lots of social challenges going on. And I had grown up in little white Newport, Minnesota, middle America, on the farm, very naive about the world. And so for me, it was quite an extraordinary adventure to travel by train all the way to Guatemala with my friend Tim and to spend the summer in Guatemala, traveling with my aunt and lots of other nuns and priests. And during that time, it kind of opened my eyes up to there's a world beyond my little personal world, the reality I grew up in, and seeing how other people think and how other people live life in a very different way than I did. And I began to appreciate the differences, even though I went through culture shock in the beginning. But that time was a real turning point for me because seeing the work that my aunt and some of these other people were doing with the poor, the politically oppressed, people who've been victims of torture and murder and violence and destroying their villages, inspired me to want to help people. I wanted to alleviate suffering in the world. And so that began my quest for following that course rather than going my father's business, which everyone else in my family had done for generations. And so I went in the seminary, and there were influences there. My prefect, Father Tom Payton, was one of Martin Luther King's best friends, and really helped me see the plight of the African American in our country and that whole history. It really broadened my world again wider, and there were many other inspirational teachers that I had at the seminary, but I realized fairly soon that that wasn't my calling, but I still knew I wanted to help people. I wanted to help alleviate suffering. So I went back to college at St. John's and majored in psychology and decided to become a clinical psychologist. And that began my career in the field of psychology. And there were many people along the way who were pivotal in helping me see that the real way to help people was not by fixing their problems and their issues, but by waking up their connection to what we call, in fact, the three principles: mind, to the connection to that deeper core, that true self, that true essence of who we are, the mental health that's already present in people. And all of these therapists didn't really understand what Banks understood, but they were people who um, had an inkling. They knew there was something more to psychology than just thought and behavior, that there was a spiritual essence to human beings, an invisible presence that created our life experience. And so I was just kind of on a journey of searching and discovering, and met many heroes in the field of psychology. Virginia Satir was one of my teachers, a very famous family therapist. Milton Erickson, the famous hypnotist I studied with, Carl Whitaker, one of the pioneers in family therapy. And all of these people kind of got me in the ballpark of seeing something bigger than traditional psychology. But I knew there was something missing because I was burned out. I had I hadn't found what I was looking for. And then I met Syd Banks. In 1980, I had the opportunity to attend a seminar by Syd Banks. And even though he kind of exploded all my theories of psychology and everything I thought I knew up to that point in time that I had so meticulously put together in all my techniques and strategies and become quite good at, he pulled the plug out from it and exploded the whole thing. It was a paradigm shift. It was a complete explosion of all my intellectual constructs about helping people. But I knew he was right. I knew he was what I had been looking for, or what he was pointing to was what I was looking for, to be more accurate. So Sid, as I reflect on it, Sid was, of all the great teachers I had, he had the by far the biggest impact on who I am as a person, who I am as a therapist, who I am as a teacher and a writer. His his teaching, his mentoring over the years had the most significant impact on my life. And it was quite interesting that many years later, my Aunt Millie, who was quite elderly at the time, was here visiting. And Syd Banks was speaking in town, and they got to meet and hang out. It was like two old souls meeting. They were really connected. So that was a kind of the bookends of the beginning of my career and what my career ended up at with my aunt meeting Syd Banks. So that's a little bit of the background. Since that time, and since I met Sid, and I had my own paradigm shift, my own beginnings of my transformation. Um, since that time, I started a mental health center. We helped thousands of people with mental health issues and addictions, and began to expand what we were doing into school systems and businesses and hospitals and all of that. And so, over the course of the last 3 or 4 decades, I've witnessed numerous transformations of organizations, of individuals, of communities, of populations, of people with certain issues or disorders. And this book, Thriving in the Eye of the Hurricane, which is a book for its time, given the times that we're in with the pandemic, the social unrest, the division, the challenges we face with climate, et cetera, we need to find that core or that essence, that eye of the hurricane within us. And this book is a compass to help us come back home to that essence of who we are, that eye of the hurricane, where our resilience, our wisdom, our feeling of hope and inspiration reside. And this book will be almost like an operator's manual for the mind. And how is it that we access that innate resilience? How does our mind work that impedes and keeps us from experiencing that moment to moment? How is it that we can use our mind as it was designed, divinely designed, to be designed for ongoing evolution and transformation and insight and creation? So, this book is about creating our own new world, creating our own new reality, using the power of mind and the power of thought and the power of consciousness to tap into this deep residue of resilience. That not only affects us personally, but it affects our marriages, us as parents, us as teachers, as helpers, as business leaders, as consultants, whatever your role is. As we become wiser and more resilient, we're more able to envision and create the new world. So, this book, Thriving in the Eye of the Hurricane, is a book for people personally, but it's also a book that will share stories of how this has played itself out. This understanding has played itself out within places like the Mayo Clinic, North Memorial Hospital, University of Minnesota Medical School, many corporations around the world, school systems all over the planet who are using curriculums based on the three principles from kindergarten through college, and many, many other applications. So this will give kind of images to the ideas, stories, pictures. so that this understanding will come alive for you as the reader as you read the book. So I'm extremely grateful to all the people whose stories were so generous to volunteer to tell their stories for the book, some which will end up in the book and some which won't. But um, the book will be out in September as planned. And in the meantime, I will be beginning to do podcasts on a regular basis that I will videotape, and I will also have them available by Zoom for those who want to participate, and to kind of give people a preview of what this book will be about. And so I look forward to seeing you on my podcast. And you can always reach me at joebailey&associates.com if you have a question, comment, or in need of any of my services. Thanks and have a great day.